everybody, Lindsay here, and this is my review for Priscilla. I'm not the biggest Sofia Coppola fan. I do like some of her films. I like Lost in Translation. I really love The Virgin Suicides. It's such a dreamy, sleepy movie. I really enjoy the way it was told and shot and acted. If you haven't seen The Virgin Suicides, I highly recommend it. It's a great movie. But let's talk about Priscilla.
Hi. What's your name?
Priscilla Boyer.
You like Elvis Presley?
This is kind of in the vein of her other film, Marie Antoinette, that she did with Kirsten Dunst. I wasn't a huge fan of that one. It was visually stunning, but other than that, I didn't get much out of it. I would say that this movie is pretty similar to that. Visually, it's very stunning. The one thing that Sofia Coppola does super well is these little details that she fixates on gives the film so much texture and richness. It can be something as simple as a shot of feet walking across a shag carpet, or a plait of hair being rolled up in a wire curler. Little things like that. She does that very well, and there are several instances of that in this movie. For the most part, I think the acting was fine. Kaylee Spaney, who played Priscilla, did an okay job. She wasn't given a ton of material to work with. She didn't have a ton of dialogue in this movie, which you don't always need to give a good performance. But it wasn't a great showcase for her and whatever talent she might have. But she did okay. Jacob Elordi as Elvis was fine. He nailed the voice very well. He looks very much like the young Elvis in the face. As the time progression went on in the movie, it was a little harder to buy him as Elvis when he's in his jumpsuit era, if you know what I mean. And what the basic story of this movie is, it's told from Priscilla's perspective, from the time when she was over in Germany and was introduced to Elvis, and their budding relationship of Elvis and her trying to convince her parents to let her go over to the States to visit him and stay with him, the temporary guardianship contracts to allow her to go over to the States to visit him and live with him and finish her high school career back in the States under his family's care. But this movie got to a point where it was just the same thing over and over again. And I can see how that was possibly purposeful to show that her life was not all this glitz and glamour of Elvis's career. She was at home just waiting for him to finish shooting a movie or waiting for him to finish a tour or a residency. She was just at home in Graceland, waiting for him and seeing tabloid stories about him and starlets and other actresses like Anne Margaret, finding little notes from other women. It was like a rinse and repeat for the rest of the movie. Oh, he's leaving, she's alone. Oh, he's back and he's kind of a dick. And then he's gone again and she's alone. Then he comes back and he's kind of a dick. And it's just that over and over and over again until she finally leaves him at the end. So it's not a terribly exciting film. And truth be told, I did not have a good experience watching this film. I've always said I don't take every movie seriously, but I take my movie watching experience extremely seriously. So if something messes that up, it kind of pisses me off. And this time it wasn't somebody talking in the theater or using their phone. That shit happens. It just happens. And the theater isn't always able to control that. I get it. But this screening, the things that happened in this screening were entirely the theater's fault. First of all, when I go sit down and the trailers are playing and the movie's starting, I'm pretty sure that the theater next to us was having a screening of the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. And the bass coming through the wall was so loud. So loud. I couldn't hear what was being said in my movie. It overpowered the dialogue in my screening. It was that loud. There were parts when our theater was shaking because the bass coming through the walls was so fucking loud. And then the music in Priscilla, there's no Elvis music, which I don't give a fuck, but there are specific songs in this that are needle drops and add intensity or power to a scene. And in this screening, it came out of one single back rear speaker instead of coming out through the screen like the dialogue and everything else was. So you could barely hear it. We had these wonderful montages and passages of time that were scored by a popular song. And you couldn't even hear it. And it was kind of funny in a couple of spots because the music was so low you could barely hear it. But you could still hear some of the Foley and sound effects of the scene that was going on. So it was like that trailer of that. So it was like that trailer that accidentally got posted of Tom Cruise's The Mummy, where they only had a few sound effects in and none of the music was there. That's what it reminded me of. So I didn't have the best experience watching this movie, and I try not to let that stuff affect my judgment of the film. I'm sure it took away some impact from several scenes that I couldn't hear the music or I couldn't hear the dialogue. AMC, fucking do better, seriously. So my overall thoughts on this film are, it's not Sofia Coppola's best work. It looks gorgeous. The costume design, the hair, the makeup is great, but the story can get a little boring. And I'm sure that was kind of the point, that, you know, she didn't lead this crazy, insane, flashy lifestyle, that she was just in Graceland most of the time, just waiting for Elvis to come home. And that was her life with him, with his family, putting up with his demands and his schedule and everything else. I would be very interested to read her book because I'm sure that adds a lot more detail than this movie did, because this movie did not go into very much detail at all about her life. It was just this kind of truncated version of like I said, just rinse and repeat over and over again. He's gone, she's alone. He's back, and he's a dick.
I want a life of my own.
Well, that's gonna do it for this little review. So until next time, this is Lindsay signing off. Out.